We have sweet fractions. Compare the fractions of cake slices left over. Circle the correct comparison symbol. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at these two different cakes, okay? And we're trying to figure out which one has the most in each cake. I know I really like cake and I want to eat the one with the most. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the fraction. We're going to decide, is it going to be less than, equal to, or greater than? And we're going to kind of read it from left to right, like whenever we would read a book or a story. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at this fraction. The first one is 2/4. That means there's 2 pieces out of 4 left over in this cake. The next one is 3/4. That means there's 4 total pieces, but only 3 are left over. So we're trying to find the most. And what I like to think of is this greater than and less than sign is kind of like a mouth, and we want it to face or eat the one that has the most. So looking at these two, this one only has 2 and this one has 3. This one has the most. This is one that we want to eat. So we're going to make our sign face that one. Okay, so I'm going to circle this one. And the way we would read this is 2/4 is less than 3/4. So we're reading it from left to right, okay? We're going to go on down to the next one. Looks like the next one is some pie. So we're going to decide which one of these 2 pies has the most. The first one has 4/6, which means there's 4 pieces out of 6 left over. The next one is 3/6, which means 3 out of 6 pieces are left over. Would you rather have 4 pieces or 3 pieces? 4 is the most. So we're going to circle the sign that faces or is trying to eat the 4/6. So this one would face that one. This means that that's the most. So we would read this as 4/6 is greater than 3/6, okay? The next one here is 2/6 and 2/6. So that means there's 2 pieces of the cake here in this one, and there's 2 pieces of the cake here in this one. So looking at it, they're both the same. So there's not one that's greater than the other. So the symbol that represents the same as is the equal sign. Equals means that these are both the same. So we would read this as 2/6 is equal to or the same as 2/6. They're both the same. The last one here has 2 out of 8 pieces, or 2/8. And then this one right over here has 5/8. So which one of these 2 has the most? This one right here has 5 pieces and this one only has 2. So since 5 is more than 2, we're going to face this way so it looks like it's going to eat this one, okay? And this is our less than sign because we would read it this way. 2/8 is less than 5/8, okay? Great job today. Bye.
And today we're going to have some fraction practice. We're going to have practice cutting shapes into equal parts. So first I want to see if you can identify the shapes that are cut into equal parts and not just cut into random parts. Let's take a look at an example first. Here I have a square. I want to cut my square into 4 equal parts. Do those look like 4 equal parts? These 2 pieces are way bigger than these 2 pieces. Let's try that one more time. If I took a square and wanted to cut it into 4 equal parts, I have to cut it in half equally vertically and in half equally horizontally to give me 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Let's take a look at our worksheet and see if we can find the shapes that have been cut into equal parts or equal fractions. Circle the figures that are divided into equal parts. Let's take a look at this first one. Really, this is all about using your eyes and seeing, are these parts equal? So this shape, we have a rectangle. This rectangle is cut up into 3 parts. Do you see 3 equal, even parts? Or are the parts uneven? You have 1 big piece, 1 small piece, 1 medium piece. Well, my eyes tell me that these are 3 equal pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and circle this rectangle that is cut into thirds, or 3 equal pieces. Our next shape is a circle. How many pieces do you see? Well, see 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces. Now, they're not cut into boxes like our rectangle, but if you took each piece of the circle and put it on one another, do you think they'd fit? Are these equal pieces? Let's look closely. I think that this circle is broken up into 4 equal pieces, or fourths. Let's go ahead and circle the circle. Our next shape is a hexagon. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. In fact, this shape is actually broken up into 6 parts. I can actually see 6 little triangles inside my hexagon. Do these triangles look to be the same size? Let's take a close look. They all look to be about the same size, and I bet if I flipped the triangles on top of one another, we could see that they fit perfectly, meaning that this shape is divided into equal parts. Let's go ahead and circle the hexagon that is broken up to 6 equal pieces, or sixths. Our next shape, we have another rectangle. In this rectangle, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parts. That's okay, a rectangle can be broken up into many different parts. But are all these parts equal to one another? Well, I see these first 2 parts up top, they look the same. And the next 2 parts, they look the same too. But these 2 bottom parts, they're a lot bigger than the other parts. These are not equal. We are not going to circle the blue rectangle. Our 5th example shows us a rhombus. And in this rhombus, I see 2 triangles that look exactly the same. And I bet if I flip these triangles on top of each other, they would cover each other up to show that they are exactly equal parts. Remember, only your eyes can tell you if these shapes have equal and even parts. And I think this rhombus does. Let's go ahead and circle the rhombus. And finally, our last shape is a pentagon. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sides. But it's only broken up into 3 parts. Now that's okay if they were equal parts. But do you see equal parts? Well, I see this one big part in the middle and then 2 smaller parts on the side. This shape is not broken up into equal parts. Remember, boys and girls, for a shape to be broken up into equal parts, the pieces need to look the same. They need to show the same amount. Remember, give a really close look before you decide if your shape is broken up into equal parts or equal fractions. Great job, boys and girls. See you next time.
Hello, welcome back. I am so excited today because we get to do a new worksheet, and the name of our worksheet is called Practice Fractions with Cinderella. I love Cinderella. How about you? Let's go ahead and look at our directions. Our directions say trace on the dotted line that divides each group of items into half. Tick the box next to the group that does not split in half evenly. Okay, so we've got a couple of things that we're going to do here. The first one that we're going to do is we are going to look at each one of the rows of items, and we're going to just try to divide it into half so there's equal parts on both sides. So let's take a look. What we need to do first is count these up. We've got Cinderella's glass slippers, right? So let's go ahead and count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, you might already know what half of 10 is, but sometimes you don't. So one way that you can figure out half of 10 is to draw over to the side 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And we're going to see what is the half point. So what you can do is you can cross off on both sides. So here and here, here and here, here and here, here and here, and then we've got our 2 right here. So the line we're going to draw in between when we get to the 2 middle ones, and we're going to count up how many is on this side. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should be 5 on the other side if we divided it up evenly. Let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's even, that's equal, or that's the same number. It divided up evenly. And that 5 plus 5 equals 10. 5 is half of 10, okay? So let's come over here and let's find the halfway point for our slippers here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this dotted line right here is the half point, okay? And it says here the other direction was tick the box next to the group that does not split in half evenly. This one does split in half evenly, so we're not going to tick the box on this one. Let's go down to the next one. The next one looks like we've got our little mice with some cheese, okay? Do you remember that in the story, the little mice? Let's go ahead and count these up and see how many there are. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we've got 7 total. Let's go over here and draw out our picture. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you remember what I told you that we're going to do? We're going to cross off on both sides, and we get to 2 in the middle. We'll know which is the half point, okay? So let's look. We're going to cross off 1 here, and 1 here, 1 here, and then 1 here, 1 here, and then 1 here, and oh, well, this is different, isn't it? There's not 2 here. We can't divide it in half, can we? So that lets me know that this can't be divided in half equally because I've got 3 here and I've got 3 here, but then I've got 1 extra one and I can't divide that one in half. Now, actually, you probably can't, but those are other kinds of fractions. That doesn't divide evenly. So on this one, remember the last direction that says tick the box next to the group that does not split in half equally? This one, we're actually going to come over here and we're going to tick that box because unfortunately that one we can't divide up evenly, right? Because 7 is not an even number. Do you remember that with even and odd? 7 is an odd number. That means that there's one odd one out. So that one's not even, okay? Let's go down to the next one. We've got our magic wands here, okay? Let's count up our wands. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So our total number is 12, and you might know what the answer is, but let's come over to the side and draw out 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So remember what I said we're going to do. We're going to tick off on both sides, here, and then here, here, and then here, here, and then here, here, and here, here, and here, and then we've got 2, so we know it's even, and then we've got 1 here and 1 here, so we're going to put that line right in the middle, and we're going to count up how much that is. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If we did it correctly and we divided it evenly, then the other side will have 6, so let's check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We did it. We've got 6 and 6. 6 plus 6 equals 12, which was our total amount. So let's see if we can find that halfway point after 6. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's that dotted line that divides it in half, okay? Nice job. Now let's go down to the next one. We're about halfway done. We've got that clock that strikes midnight. Do you remember that in the story? That was fun. Okay, so let's look. How many do we have all together? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we've got 8 total. Let's draw over to the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then we're going to tick them off on both sides, you remember? And then we should have 2 in the middle. So here's 1, and here's 1, here's 1, and here's 1, here's 1, and here's 1. We've got 2 in the middle, so we did it right. Here's 1, and here's 1, and we're going to put that dividing line right down the middle. How many do we have on each side? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 on this side. And 4 plus 4 equals 8. That was our total number of clocks. So let's find the halfway point here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So our halfway point is boop, right there. Okay, great job. Okay, now we are almost done. We've got her pretty dress. I love that dress in that story. Let's look and see how many there is. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 dresses. So let's come over here and draw that out. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we're going to tick off on both sides. So here, and then here, here, and then here. And remember, those were our last 2, so we're going to divide that in half. So on each side, there is 2. 1, 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. That was our total amount. So we're going to divide that. 1, 2. So that line is right after the 2. Okay, and we've got that divided evenly. And this one's pretty easy to see. You can see that that's divided up evenly, right? Okay, one last one here. Great job. We've got our magic pumpkins, don't we? Let's count how many there are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we've got 6 total. We're going to draw that out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're going to tick them off on each side. So 1 here, and then 1 here, 1 here, and then 1 here. There's our 2. We're going to tick those off, 1 here and 1 here, but we're going to put a line right down the middle. Count up each side. We've got 1, 2, 3 on that side, 1, 2, 3 on that side. 3 plus 3 is 6, which is our total amount. So let's find that line right after our 3. 1, 2, 3. There's that line right there. We're going to trace it, and we are done. Awesome job. Bye-bye, friends. Hello, today I have a new worksheet. The name of the worksheet is called Fractions of Shapes, and the directions say what fraction of the shape has been colored. Circle the correct fraction. So let's come over here and look at our different options. We've got a square to start with, and we've got 3 choices. We have 2/3, 1/2, or 3/4. Now the bottom number of a fraction tells us how many equal parts the shape is divided into. Okay, so for example, let's come over to the side and I'm going to draw this out for you. If you have a square that is divided up, the first option says 2/3. So we have to have a square that it would be divided up into 3 equal parts, okay? And 2/3 of that would mean 2 out of the 3 are going to be completely colored in. So about this much of the square would be colored in. The next option says 1/2. So that means the bottom number tells us that the square would be divided up into 2 equal parts right down the middle. And then one of them would be filled in to be 1/2, okay? The last one is 3/4. So 3/4 tells us that the square would be divided into 4 equal sections, okay? And that 3 of them would be filled in, okay? Now it's hard to tell based on just this little quick picture, but I want you to look over here. Do you think that this is 2/3, 3 equal parts, 2 equal parts, or 4 equal parts? What do you think that that looks like? Well, it looks to me like if I were to take a line and draw this right down here, that there would be 1, 2, 3 equal parts, and we can see that 2 of them are colored in. So I'm going to say over here that the answer is 2/3, okay? The next one is a circle, and the circle, we can already tell how many parts it's divided up in because they've drawn the line out for us. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So whatever the answer is going to be is going to have a 4 at the bottom, okay? So over here, it says 1 out of 4 or 3 out of 4. And we're trying to find how many of them have been colored so we can see that only one of them over here has been colored. So I'm going to go ahead and circle that one right over here, 1/4. Very good. Okay, the next one is a triangle. And the triangle has been divided up perfectly down the middle, making 2 equal parts, okay? So I might already know that my number is going to have a 2 at the bottom because we can see 2 equal parts. But let's look here. We have 2/3, 1/3, or 1/2. Now I remember I told you a 2 is going to be at the bottom because we see 2 equal parts. So let's look. Is one of the parts shaded in? If it's shaded in, one of them will look like this. Is that what our triangle looks like? Yeah, that's correct. So this is our answer, is 1/2, okay? The next one is a square, okay? And we've already talked about a square, but we can see that there is no line that makes it really easy for us to figure out how many parts that there are here. But by looking at this empty part, we can see that we can fit 4 of those, okay, right in here that would all be equal. So I would have 1, 2, 3, and I'll draw the line right down here. We'd have 4. So we'd have 4 equal parts if we were to divide that up. And it looks like 3 of those are filled in, okay? So I think that it's going to be 1, 2, 3 out of 4 parts that are colored in. Let's look at our other options. The other is 2/3. Well, that would mean that this would need to be divided up into 3 parts like this, and 2 of them would be filled in. That's actually the one that we did right up here. So that's not it. The next one is 1/4. Now that is a little bit tricky because we can see that there are 4 parts, and if you get confused, you can kind of see that one that's sticking out. So you might think that's the right answer. But remember, we're looking for how many of them are the fraction of the ones that have been colored. So there are 3 of them right here that have been colored in. So 3/4 is going to be our correct answer. We've got one more here. You guys are doing a great job. We have a rectangle, okay? And the rectangle is really long and skinny, and we've got a little section over here that's been filled in. Now just by looking at this, it's hard to tell how many ways we can divide it. So our options are we can either divide it into 4 ways or we can divide it into 2 ways. This one again is 1/4. So it would either be divided up into 4 equal parts like this, okay? Let's draw those lines. 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3, 4 equal parts. Or it would be divided right in half, which is what the 2 means, that it gives us 2 equal parts, okay? And we can see that in half, that's not correct, because half would be about right here. So we know it's going to be one of these 4ths over here. How many of these are colored in? Or is it 3 out of 4? Okay, would it be like this? Or is it 1 out of 4 parts, which would be like this, okay? We can see that it's going to be 1 out of 4. Only one of those is colored in. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to circle 1/4. Awesome job on your fractions today. Good job.
Today we're going to be looking at a worksheet called Construction Zone Math, Equivalent Fractions. But what's an equivalent fraction? Let's take a look. If we had a fraction 1/4, well, before we even draw a picture of 1/4, let's identify what each part of the fraction is so we know exactly what we're drawing. 4 is the denominator, or the bottom number. That shows you how many pieces a fraction is broken up into. For this fraction, I know that it's going to be broken up into 4 equal pieces. The top number is the numerator. The numerator tells me how many of those pieces are shaded in. In this fraction, 1 is shaded in. To make an equivalent fraction, we want to make a fraction that has the same amount of space shaded in. So for example, an equivalent fraction to 1/4 could be 2/8. To show this in a picture, instead of cutting our fraction into 4 pieces, we'll cut our fraction into 8 pieces. Now instead of shading 1 piece in, we'll shade 2 pieces in, because the numerator is 2. If you look closely at these pictures, or you can imagine them on top of each other, you'll see that they take up the exact same amount of space. The same is true when you look at fraction bars. We're just looking for fractions that might have different numbers, but take up the same amount of space. Let's read the directions and get started with our worksheet. Use the fraction model to complete the statements below. Circle the correct numerator. Let's look at our first example. 1/4 and blank 12ths. We know that 12 is the denominator here, as is 4. So that means in the first bar, there are a total of 4 pieces. And because 1 is the numerator, there is 1 piece shaded in. In our second fraction, we know that there's 12 pieces in total because 12 is our denominator. But what's the numerator? Let's count the shaded in pieces to find out. 1, 2, 3 bars are shaded. So I think 3 is the correct numerator. Let's circle 3, and if we look closely, we'll see 3/12 takes up the exact same amount of space as 1/4. And that's what we're looking for in equivalent fractions. So 3 is the correct numerator. Let's take a look at our next example. In this problem, we have 2/3 is equivalent to blank ninths. Again, in our first fraction, 3 is the denominator because there are 3 pieces in total. 2 is the numerator because there are 2 pieces that are shaded in. Let's look at our second fraction and count the shaded in pieces to see what the correct numerator is to make an equivalent fraction with ninths. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces shaded in, which means 6 is the correct numerator. 2/3 is equivalent to 6/9. And we can see that 2/3 and 6/9 take up the exact same amount of space. So 6 must be the correct numerator. Let's take a look at our last problem. Our first fraction is 4/8, and our second fraction is blank 16ths. Let's identify the numerator and denominator in the first fraction. In the first fraction, the numerator is 4. That means there are 4 pieces shaded in. The numerator is always the top number. The bottom number is our denominator. That tells us how many pieces there are in total. And in total, there are 8 pieces in our first fraction. In our second fraction, there are 16 pieces in total. But what's the numerator? Let's count the boxes to find out how many 16ths need to be shaded in to make an equivalent fraction to 4/8. Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces shaded in. And if we look, 8/16 takes up the exact same amount of space as 4/8. And that means that 8/16 is the equivalent fraction, meaning that 8 is the correct numerator or top number. Remember, boys and girls, the numerator is the top number, and that shows you how many pieces are shaded in a fraction. And the bottom number is the denominator. That tells you how many pieces are in total. Thanks for watching, boys and girls, and we'll see you next time.
Subscribe to our channel to stay updated on new videos. Find links to our apps in the comments below.